Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happen every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Carolyn. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Send us an email at womensportsweeklypod@gmail.com, and we may feature your email in the LEZ, the Listener Experience Zone.
Yeah, so send us questions, comments. We're happy to talk about them on the pod. Any topics you want us to cover, we love hearing from our listeners.
Yeah, so we can LEZ it up. We have something very exciting to share. I'll drum roll. You do it.
No, you can share.
We have merch.
I'm so excited about this.
We have Women's Sports Weekly merch, and it is currently up for pre-order. We are starting with t-shirts, and they are awesome.
Mm-hmm. Lots of good options to choose from.
You can choose from purple tie-dye, black, white, or gray. You can get all four if you'd like.
That would be a lot.
We are doing this pre-order style. So you can head over to our Instagram at Women's Sports Weekly Pod and click on the link tree. In the link tree, you'll find a pre-order form, and you can Venmo me, Carolyn, or PayPal me. And all the details for Venmo and PayPal are on that form. We'll also include the pre-order form in our show notes of the podcast, so you can also click there if you'd like to access it. The t-shirts are $35 and then $5 for shipping. So we're going to ship them ourselves. So we're going to try to keep the shipping costs as low as we can, but it will be $5 per shirt. If you live in Denver, you can coordinate a pickup with us. If you live in Denver only.
And we'll only meet you in Denver too.
Yes.
But we'll figure something out.
And we won't deliver to you, but it is a good way if you don't want to pay for shipping. And you know, we frequent the same spots all the time. So if you're at the 99ers, we can drop off a shirt there and you can pick it up.
For sure.
The pre-order form does close on Friday, April 18th. So you have some time, but go in, go fill out a form, go get a Women's Sports Weekly t-shirt. I would die if we saw a Women's Sports Weekly t-shirt out in the wild.
That would be pretty cool.
We anticipate you will receive your shirt around mid-May, but we will provide a better update once we receive the shirts and figure out how long the shipping will take. Are you going to get one in every color?
Ooh, I'm tempted.
Also, to speak to the quality of the shirt. So I know that people want to know what those are made out of. And so on our Instagram post, we have the specifications, how big they are. But I will say that the black, gray, and white ones, those are the comfort color, and they do run a little bit bigger. So that's something to keep in mind. I like that. It's more of an oversized feel. And then the tie-dye one runs a little bit closer, true to size. So something to keep in mind as you're thinking about what shirts you want. Depending on how you like your shirts, you'll have to pick the sizing that's right for you.
Also, this week, Run Club is still happening on Thursday. We unfortunately will not be there because we will be in Tampa for the Final Four, which we are super pumped about, but we are bummed about missing Run Club this week. That being said, it's still happening. We spoke to someone in Run Club and they're happy to lead the group for us, which we're very thankful for. So shout out to Danielle. And we will still have a secret word this week. So if you are going to Run Club and you let the bartenders know the word is Tampa, you will get 50% off your first draft.
Head over to Run Club. It's a good time.
Yes, and all our details are on our page. It is at the 99ers Sports Bar. Check out our Instagram, and we will post the details this week as well.
Let's get into the highlight reel for this week, but we are starting with a major lowlight. JuJu Watkins tore her ACL in USC's 96-59 second round win over Mississippi State. This was horrible.
It was terrible. I was watching live. You were brushing your teeth, and I just started screaming down the hall. And you were like, what?
And I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew.
And I said, JuJu's down. She got hurt bad. It's her knee. And you were like, I was really hoping you wouldn't say that. Mm-hmm. By the way she went down and the way she reacted, I was like, this is not going to be good.
No. And it wasn't. Torn ACL. Just... It's so strange because I felt like so many people felt this ACL tear so viscerally. So many people were upset, including us, because it's just like, oh my gosh, JuJu's going to be fine. But this was an opportunity for USC to make a run for a national championship.
And so many tweets for JuJu. One of the tweets I saw was, I haven't felt so bad about another injury since Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles. Like, to your point, it just hit people different. And I think because JuJu is such an amazing player and is in the media, just the way she is, like, people are drawn to her.
Yeah.
that it just really impacted a lot of people, and just anyone getting hurt is awful, and to see a player of that caliber get hurt, it just hits a little different. You just hate to see injuries.
For sure. Yeah, I don't want to see my worst enemy get an injury like that. That just puts them out for so long. She started every single game of the season for USC. She was averaging almost 35 minutes a game. They only play 40. She was in the whole time. Averaged almost 25 points per game and 1.8 blocks per game as a guard. So that's big shoes to fill.
Another thing I would just like to point out is ACL tears is so big in women's sports. And I've also read this week that women are up to 8 times more likely to tear their ACLs than men. And yet I think it was only 2% of the overall research done for ACLs is done on women. Like all the research is done on men or men and women, but like a lot of things, research is not being done on female athletes, and they continue to get hurt. So it just is so frustrating to see these great athletes continue to get injured, and we don't have a reason why. And no one knows because the research is not out there.
Yeah, something needs to change. I think that the U.S. women's national team is doing a great job of pushing that forward as well, because they've just seen it way too many times.
Yep.
At the end of the day, do I think JuJu's going to be able to bounce back? Yes, but Cam Brink was talking this past week too. She doesn't even feel like herself yet. She feels like she's having to relearn everything. And I totally get it. And it's scary. You don't want it to happen again. Yes, we think and know that JuJu's going to bounce back, but that's also a lot of pressure on her. Recovery is hard. I don't know. I just feel so much for her.
Same, especially this time of year.
I saw people on the internet offering up their ACLs, offering up their knees. If someone came to me tomorrow and was like, you'll be out for 9 months, but would you give JuJu your knee? I would say 100% yes. I really would.
Yeah.
I don't think she wants my knees. They're pretty shitty, but that's how I truly feel. And it just sucks to see someone go down like that. USC in their Sweet 16 game was wearing JuJu shirts. Just really cool to see the support come from the team. And I know that it's probably heartbreaking for her not to be there in those moments, but wishing JuJu all the rest and recovery she needs to get back.
Yeah.
And to take care of herself first.
For sure. Get well soon. Hopefully next year. I don't know if we'll see her back out on the court next year or 2 years. The recovery time varies, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And take your time. Take your time. You don't need to come back too soon. We've seen that happen before too, and then it happens again. Take your time. Make sure you feel good. Get the therapy you need, both physically and mentally, because that's going to make the difference. In lighter news, in the NWSL, the team out of Boston that starts next year, 2026, changed their name from Boss Nation to Boston Legacy.
Interesting.
Boss Nation was widely ridiculed. Did you know that?
I don't think I did.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of like Boss Nation.
What? You were the only one who does. I love that you did. I love this. Doesn't Boss Nation sound more like the fans?
I don't know. I kind of like it. Boss, like we're bosses.
Yeah, but it was only BOS.
I missed this.
It was only BOS.
Boston
Nation.
Legacy. I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, you're kind of like our followers on Instagram, because we posted it on Instagram and 61% of people on our Instagram said that it was a better name and 39% thought it was still a miss. But they did say still a miss. They didn't say Boss Nation was better.
I love how I also missed this on our own Instagram. I don't know where I've been.
You've been wrapped up in March Madness.
Yeah, I have no time for anything else these days.
Danielle will sometimes send me things on social media and she'll be like, we should post this to our story. And I'm like, I posted that 7 hours ago.
You know, it happens.
To me, Boss Nation made no sense at all. And any name would have been better.
I feel like I do remember talking about this last year, but now I'm like, I think that was better than Legacy. I don't know.
The Legacy, they've got a lot of history there.
Yeah, sure.
What, you would stick with Boss Nation?
What's their mascot? Either way, like, what is their mascot?
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably going to be a gritty out there. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting.
So Boston changes their name to Boston Legacy. I like it. Danielle wants to go back to Boss Nation, and that's that. We'll see what happens. We'll hope that Denver picks a better name than all of the above.
We can only hope that.
I think everyone's always going to be upset with the name.
I feel like it takes time to adapt.
Yeah, and you got to give the name personality and
Yeah.
got to see how it evolves. So we'll see what happens with the Boston Legacy.
Switching gears a little bit, a highlight in our world is we would like to thank everyone who rated our podcast last week. Last week, we explained that we do not get paid to do this podcast. We And by we, I mean Carolyn edits the podcast herself. I would call you our
Editor?
Chief operating officer, COO, editor, all the things.
That's not true.
But with that, we really appreciate everyone who did rate our podcast last week after listening. If you send us a screenshot of your 5-star rating, we will send you a sticker. And again, this just helps people find us. So continue to rate, subscribe, share with a friend. We really appreciate that. Once again, we're small, we're growing, and we would really love to keep doing this podcast. And we love our listeners. So thank you.
All right, let's get into some March Madness. Let's talk about the Sweet 16, then we'll get into the Elite 8. So, I hate to bring this up, Danielle.
I know, I can take this. I have been super salty.
Okay, before we get it, can I introduce what we're talking about?
Sure. I'm sure half our listeners already know where this is headed.
TCU played Notre Dame in the Sweet 16, and TCU beat Notre Dame 71-62. TCU was ranked second and Notre Dame was ranked 3 in this region. And Danielle had some shit to say about it. And now they have lost. And I want to know, 1, are you okay? And 2, will you be making any apologies for the trash talking that you did?
I refuse to apologize, but I will own up to.
Hold on. The refusing to apologize. I'm going to look into the camera. This is what it's like. You're never going to get an apology.
I can say that I was wrong. And as soon as TCU was named number 2 and Notre Dame number 3, I literally at the 99er Sports Bar in front of people started booing at the TV.
You did.
And said it's crazy that TCU got ranked over Notre Dame. And now I have to eat my words because TCU has now beaten Notre Dame twice this season.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame did not show up that game. Hannah Hidalgo was so in her head, did not play well. I just feel like that was a huge loss for them. And Haley Van Lith, when you're looking at TCU, had one of the best games of her life.
Yep.
Looking at that game, I said to you, and because I didn't have a good feeling pretty early on, just the way things were going. I've said this before about Hannah Hidalgo. She is an unbelievable player. I think she gets super hyped and it's great when she's doing well and they're winning. I think that same energy kind of hurts her when she's not doing as well. Last year, it was the nose ring. The ref took her out and she couldn't get the nose ring out and she was super flustered, couldn't get her head out of that. This year, she just was not scoring. And I'm not saying it's all on Hannah. I'm just saying she is an incredible player. I just think that was a big factor in this game.
And she's the heartbeat of the team. Yeah. So they're matching her energy to a point. And her energy is always high, but sometimes it's frenetic and sometimes it's targeted. And it felt more frenetic.
Again, I am not bashing her by any means. I just think that played a big role. And I also said to you, the last time Notre Dame made it to the Final Four was in 2019. So you and I were at the Final Four and national championship game in 2018 when they won it all. And then in 2019, they lost in the national championship. Then they had a few really rough years, and then they've been building their team back up. There's like a mental block for Notre Dame when it comes to getting past this Elite 8 stage. And it happened again. And no, I'm not okay. The post, if you're on our social media, Carolyn, you posted the picture of Hannah Hidalgo with her little green cowboy hat, slumped in her seat with a Red Bull on at the post-game press, and you said, "This is Danielle right now." I literally almost shed tears watching this game.
Yeah, you said you were going to cry, and then you went directly to the fridge and took out a pint of ice cream and sat on the couch and finished it off.
Okay, can we just not say that this was a full pint of ice cream? There was like an eighth left of the pint.
I'm saying own it, Danielle.
I did not eat a whole pint of ice cream, people.
I think it's a pretty healthy coping mechanism.
I don't know about that.
Let's talk about Notre Dame a little bit in this game. So Notre Dame had 10 points in the fourth quarter. It's fewest in any quarter of all season. They couldn't buy a layup.
Yeah.
It was rough to watch. I do want to just point out some bright spots. So Olivia Miles, I just love the way she plays. I love how she's having fun out there. And then her basketball IQ is so high. I just think she could be such a great W player. And although she didn't have the game of her life in the Sweet 16 matchup, I'm just like, wow, that is a leader out there. And I am excited for things with her. She was also playing on a bum ankle and made it work.
And she's another one who's had so many injuries throughout her career and she just keeps bouncing back. Yeah, definitely a player to look out for. Big fan of hers.
And Leah Tu King on Notre Dame.
Oh, she started off so well.
She had 17 points and 10 rebounds. So I don't think this is the end for Notre Dame by any means. It never will be. But yeah, just a tough one. And then we've got to spend some time talking about Haley Van Lith.
The girl played out of her mind.
She scored 26 points, had 9 rebounds. This is TCU's first Elite 8 in program history. She was blocking players. She was giving Hannah Hidalgo the stare down. You could tell she was locked in. By herself, she outscored Notre Dame 12-10 in the fourth quarter. She has experience. This is her third team in college. She's played for Louisville. She's played for LSU. Now she's with TCU. And she's been in the Elite 8 5 times.
You can't deny how good she is looking at those stats.
And that experience is helpful.
Absolutely.
Just to be in that environment, to go with the surges of the game and be able to be resilient through them, that goes such a long way.
Yep.
All right. We also have to talk about the elephant in the room that ESPN is just not addressing. Disclaimer, we're about to talk about Sedona Prince, and she has allegations of sexual misconduct and abuse. So if that's something that you prefer not to listen to, you can fast forward until we talk about UConn and Oklahoma. So we were listening to this game, and the broadcaster affectionately called TCU a team of misfit toys. And I was like, that is such an interesting thing to call a team when there are serious allegations against Sedona Prince, who plays for TCU, and it has not been mentioned once this entire time.
I said to you, I don't think they'll go there. The bigger problem I have with this is the amount of times the camera pans to her.
Yeah.
I feel like she's getting more attention after all this has come out. And not negative attention. Somehow they're like praising her, even like pregame or postgame celebrations, watching her dance and them just showing so much of that. I'm like, what are we doing here?
It's really bizarre. I'm like, she must have some PR team to the max that is either protecting her or pushing her to be more in the spotlight in a positive light. It's wild to me. So you can listen to episode 48. We actually talk about the allegations against Sedona Prince. We are talking about abuse against women. How are we not talking about that? This is violence against women, and we're just totally glossing over it. Let's just take a step back. Sedona Prince has faced multiple assault and sexual abuse allegations, the latest coming in January of this year and dating all the way back to 2019. This latest one is where a TCU student reported Prince assaulted her and that Prince asked her to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which, like, what the hell? I haven't heard of people signing NDAs since, who was that horrible man? Harvey Weinstein. Like, this is crazy. You're in college and you're having people you date sign NDAs. Like, that alone to me is the biggest red flag.
It's disturbing, honestly.
Sedona Prince also went to the police and filed a report and said that she had been assaulted and suffered a black eye. No charges were made from either side in that. But she has, like I said, other allegations dating back to 2019, including a sexual misconduct lawsuit that was eventually dismissed. And I know these are allegations. And also, we've talked about this a lot. If there is a pattern, there is something going on. Allegedly. Apparently, she must have a great legal team because, whoa, I just think that it should be mentioned on the broadcast, because I think people are coming in and watching TCU and they might not know a lot about TCU and they're like, whoa, I want to support this team, but you should have the full picture of what you're supporting. And I know it's an allegation, but you should know what's going down with one of the players and the fact that there's a petition with over 200,000 signatures asking for her to be removed from the team. And instead we're showing her dancing on ESPN. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what the answer is, and I wish ESPN would just do better. It's disturbing, and honestly, I just can't take seeing her on the screen anymore.
I know. Whew, okay.
Yeah.
After that, that's a lot.
That is a lot. All right. With that, in later news, let's talk about UConn beating Oklahoma 82-59.
A beatdown.
And this game, I'm going to say in the first half, I was a little nervous for UConn, but Paige Beckers decided that she was going to go off in this game, and she had a night with 40 points.
She is the stuff of nightmares right now in March. It feels like spooky season, and Paige is the ghost in the closet about to come out and drop 40 points on your ass.
Yeah, and UConn always finds a way. I felt like earlier in the year, I was just like, I don't know if UConn could do it this year. Gino, he's not the most winningest coach in NCAA history for nothing. The man knows how to coach, and his players play hard. And when you have Paige Beckers on your team dropping 40 points, it's hard to beat a team like that.
When last season ended, we said, without a doubt, UConn is headed to a Final Four. And then in the middle of this season, we were like, is UConn headed to a Final Four? ? And now after seeing this Sweet 16 win, I'm like, whoa, they look good. Paige Beckers only scored 11 points in the first half.
Just 29 in the second half. Unbelievable.
She shot 6 from 8 from 3. Some of those threes were deep.
Oh, so deep. So deep. So fun to watch.
And she's just so lovable. UConn, for so long, for me, I hated UConn. I just really
You've
didn't
come
like
a long
them.
way.
I have, because they just won, and Gino was very cocky about it, and it just pissed me off. But this UConn team is very lovable. Paige at the helm is just the most lovable. And Gino's definitely softened a bit.
For sure.
And this was a team win. Although Paige dropping 40 is always helpful. You're going to beat a team if you drop 40. But freshman Sarah Strong and Jonna L. Alfie combined for 20 rebounds. And sophomore Ashlyn Shade had 12 points off the bench. And they were able to hold Oklahoma Reagan Beers to 10 points and only 3 for 11 for shooting. So a just solid win by UConn. All right, let's get into the Elite Eight. We have South Carolina beating Duke 54-50, and holy cannoli, I was sweating.
Same. I already had a mourn the loss of Notre Dame on Saturday. And then Sunday, South Carolina decides to keep this game way too close for comfort. I had a friend reach out to me as a joke and said, wow, you were about to have to change your whole wardrobe for Tampa. And I literally wrote back, I would have just worn all black at that point because I'm mourning the loss of Notre Dame and South Carolina. So I am so happy South Carolina won this game. And they were the first team to punch their ticket to the Final Four for 2025.
Thank God. I looked at you in the middle of probably the third or fourth quarter and I was like, oh shit. This does not look good. We have to give some props to Duke.
Yes.
Because South Carolina did not play well in this game. It was because of how Duke planned to play South Carolina.
Yeah. Duke is very well coached. Kara Lawson, she played for Pat Summitt for Tennessee. She always talks about Pat Summitt and what she's learned playing for her. She coaches this team so well. And to your point, like, hats off to Duke this season. Not only did they win the ACC tournament, they ended with a 29-8 record, and they made a very good attempt to make it to the Final Four for the first time in 19 years. They're still a young team. They're going to be a team to look out for next year, and just great season for them.
I'm going to make a way too early prediction. I'm saying Duke to the Final Four next year.
Well, hopefully they're not in South Carolina's bracket.
Freshman Toby Fournier had a big game for Duke with 18 points and 6 rebounds, and junior Ashlyn Jackson added 13 points and 6 assists.
I felt bad for Ashlyn. She obviously had a great game, and clock is running down. She throws up a 3. Was it the best shot? No, but in the situation they were, I'm like, you're pressing at that point, and unfortunately airballed the shot. That just sucks for that to be the shot that goes up. Thankful that it didn't go in, even though they still wouldn't have tied the game at that point. It would have been a 1-point game at that point, but just overall, just heart goes out to her on that one.
I was just hoping the time would run out. That's what I was hoping. I was like, if we've got 5 more minutes, this is not going to go our way. Junior Chloe Kitts led the Gamecocks with 14 points, and senior Sanaya Fagan added 12 points.
So fun to see Chloe Kitts again. She's just been playing so well the past couple of games. And Sanaya Fagan, as a senior on this team, she just needs to keep playing well because we need her. Big, down low, strong. And if she can continue to put up good points, that's going to be really helpful down the line.
And she has spurts of greatness. I really just want to see the Gamecocks play a little bit better because they're playing a little bit streaky right now. They don't look, to me, and I hate to say this, they don't look like a national championship team. If they do get there, it's going to have to be a fight and a claw to get there.
And I said to you when we were watching the game, yes, we would like to see them play better and beat teams a little better, but to me, to see them pull off these tight games, I think that goes a long way.
That's a good
point.
And
at this point of the year, anything goes.
Yeah.
Anything could happen this time of year. So I actually like to see them winning in these tighter games, in these high stress moments.
Yeah, and Dawn Staley said that after the game. They are really good at making adjustments in real time. They don't need a lot of time to do it. She tells them what to do and they make the change. Maybe I'm just trying to protect myself from thinking that another national championship could happen and I don't want to get too upset, but oh my gosh, I'm going to be so stressed at the Final Four. My heart rate at the last Final Four had to be in the 170s, 180s. I just know it's going to be that way again.
It's definitely going to be tense for sure, but so pumped for our Gamecocks. So happy we get to see them there once again.
So glad I get to bring my Gamecock gear to Tampa.
I'm pretty sure this is only the second coach to ever bring their team to the Final Four for 5 years in a row.
Oh, Gino
had done that prior, and now Dawn Staley is up there.
Cool.
5 in a row Final Fours.
It's really something to be proud of. And I also think making it to the Final Four, like, that's your goal, right? Obviously, you want to win a national championship, but just to be at the Final Four is such an accomplishment. And like now it's like go and have fun. Like
exactly.
Just go and play loose and enjoy it because it's such a great atmosphere. There's so many great games. With the parity this year, it's going to be a toss-up.
Yes. But with that, go Cox.
Go Cox.
The second game of the Elite Eight was UCLA versus LSU, and UCLA pulled off this win 72-65.
UCLA is heading to the Final Four for the first time in program history, which is crazy to me.
It did get real close at some points of this game between LSU. I was hoping LSU could pull off this upset. They just did not have it in them on Sunday, unfortunately. And Flau'jae Johnson, she ended the game with 28 points, shooting 10 for 17 from the field and 5 for 5 from the line. I don't understand why the ball wasn't in her hands more in that fourth quarter.
That was wild to me.
And Kaylin Gilbert on LSU, unfortunately, did not have a good game.
She played great defensively.
And
but then she had a horrible foul at the end.
Yeah. Could not make a shot,
but that's
just
on
kept
Kim.
Shooting. And I don't know why she was in the game.
That's on Kim.
You
have to coach up that young player and be like, you have to get it to Flau'jae, Anissa, or Michaela Williams, which is what Rebecca Lobo said.
All I'm saying is it's just a shame that Flau'jae didn't have the ball in her hands more. She played so well. Another player, senior Anissa Morrow, 15 points, 7 rebounds. What a great year. She averaged 18.8 points and 13.7 rebounds this past year. Literally a walking double-double.
I love Anissa Morrow. I think she's going to be great in the W2. Excited for what's ahead for her.
And now let's talk about UCLA a little bit.
UCLA, Gabriela Yaquez led the Bruins with 18 points and 8 rebounds. Junior Lauren Betts added 17 points and 7 rebounds after only playing 6 minutes in the first half due to foul trouble. That's crazy to me. The fact that they were able to weather the storm without her in, I was like, whoa, this is going to be hard for LSU to do.
And that was pretty telling for me in the first half. LSU could not go on a run without Betts in. And I was like, if they can't capitalize without her in the center, it just would have been extremely difficult for them to pull that off.
Betts to me also just looks more confident. She was talking to her team in a timeout, like really taking control. She's been more vocal on the court. She was also, and I don't see Lauren Betts do this often, she was trash talking on the court a little bit, giving the too short, just being a little bit more vocal. And I like to see it. I think she's getting a little bit more confident. We talked about her and how sometimes I think she thinks too much, but in this game, I thought she would catch the ball, feel the defense, and then make a decision, which I thought was great. She wasn't pre-planning in her head, which it sometimes looks like, and I just don't know who's going to stop her.
We were saying that on Sunday while watching the game. When she's on like that, and just with her strength and her height, I really don't know which player on which team can stop that. And UCLA is another team that I have not been the kindest to this year, saying I don't think they're as good as everyone says they are. I just have to stop talking, I think. You know, I meant to say this during when we were talking about Notre Dame. Sometimes my fandom for certain teams, listen, I'm not an analyst here. At the end of the day, we're fans of the game who love it so much that we want to bring our love to other people.
And just yap about it.
I'm not perfect. I have my biases. UCLA continues to prove me wrong. Do I want them to win a national championship? Absolutely not. And I'm also sitting here saying, like, someone has to prove to me, like, USC beat them twice this year, but without JuJu, someone has to prove to me that they can beat them. So it's going to be an interesting Final Four.
If you had to choose, would you rather it be UCLA or TCU?
UCLA. Don't even get me started.
Okay, fine. If it came down to UCLA and TCU, Danielle's going to be a UCLA fan. Honestly, I had the best weekend this past weekend just watching basketball games, working out in between, taking our dog on a walk, jumping in the sauna blanket, lifting some weights. It was like my ideal weekend.
It's been great. Once again, I think I have bed sores from sitting on the couch so much watching games.
I will say, though, we did get up and move our bodies a little bit.
Oh, I know we move. It's just like movement and then you sit there for hours, but I wouldn't change it.
All right, let's get into what we're looking forward to this week. The Final Four is set. It is South Carolina, UCLA, UConn, and Texas. South Carolina plays Texas in the Final Four. This is a rematch of the SEC final.
Oh, it always makes me nervous when two teams from the same conference come together to play in the Final Four because I'm like, they know each other so well and both these teams are just so good.
I don't like teams playing too many times against each other. I just think it could get real hairy real fast. So I am nervous.
Yeah, me too. So as a reminder, South Carolina beat Texas twice this past year and lost to them once. South Carolina did win the SEC tournament over Texas. So this matchup is going to be, I'm going to say, nerve-wracking as South Carolina fans. And I just think it's going to be a really good game.
Let's get into the other matchup. The other matchup is UCLA versus UConn. UConn beats USC. I made a mistake last week in our fact check. I said that UConn beat USC, and that never happened this season.
You know, we both had some, what's the word when you lose your memory?
Amnesia?
Yeah, I think we both had some amnesia because same with TCU Notre Dame, and I also forgot who won this year.
I know.
It happens. It's been a long year. There's been so many good games.
But UConn beats USC to make it to the Final Four.
I know one thing. My dad is going to be so happy. He's coming to the Final Four with us. He gets to see his UConn Huskies battle it out with UCLA. And you know what? I'm rooting for UConn this year to beat UCLA. I kind of hope it comes down to UConn and South Carolina in the finals because as like part of our family, that is going to be the ultimate matchup.
Yeah, we won't be able to sit next to each other, but that would be fun to have it happen.
It really would be. So these matchups are just going to be wild. I'm curious to see how Sarah Strong is going to do against Lauren Betts down in the post. You have a junior and a freshman, both really solid players. I don't know. The way UConn's been playing, I think they could do it.
Well, let's stay on this train and tell us what you're looking forward to this week.
I'm looking forward to the Final Four. The semifinal games are this Friday, April 4th at 7 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And the finals are on Sunday, April 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern on ABC. We will be there in person.
Look for us.
I am so excited once again to go to a Final Four. Oh, cannot wait.
That means in next week's episode, we're going to just cover the Final Four. And then I promise, if you love to listen to us for other sports, we will get into other sports, but just give us another week, okay? Let's switch gears a little bit for my looking ahead. U.S. Women's National Team enters a friendly this weekend. They take on Brazil at 5 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday, April 5th on TNT and True TV. And then they'll play again Tuesday, April 8th at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. These games against Brazil are going to be a rematch of the 2024 gold medal match in Paris, in which the U.S. won. So this is going to be some good competition for the U.S. Trinity Rodman is back on the roster. She's got a boyfriend and she's back on the roster. She had sat out the past few camps to rest some injuries, and she is now returning both for the Washington Spirit and the U.S. Women's National Team. And she did hard launch her relationship with tennis hottie Ben Shelton.
Good for them, and I'm glad to see her back.
Just two beautiful humans.
Athletic.
So much muscle.
Unreal.
Man, I'm so envious.
Excuse me. Excuse me. I take offense to that.
In like the most non-creepy way, I just love to be a fly on the wall.
Okay, moving on. That's it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch women's sports, rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Share the podcast with your friends. Keep sending us topics you want us to cover on Instagram at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Thanks for joining us.
And get yourself a t-shirt.
Woo-hoo.